My son told me he's having trouble sleeping, so I decided to film him, and what I found in the morning chilled me to the bone. For starters, I'm a single mother of a 13-year-old teenager. His father unfortunately passed away in a home invasion, so I was left with my biggest sorrow and my biggest joy all at once. Raising him alone has been quite the task, but I've received a lot of help and pointers from both my parents and my late husband's parents. Henry is a good kid. He has good grades. He's very respectful and understanding and doesn't try to make my life a living hell like I hear some of the parents of teenagers explain. One persistent problem throughout his life has been his sleep. He came into my room at around midnight 2 weeks ago and woke me up, although I wasn't actually sleeping. "Mom, I can't sleep," he said, and he looked scared, almost terrified. I could tell by his faint shaking and the way he held himself. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked him, and he glanced at the now shut door and then flinched. "It's just..." He was tapping his fingers on his crossed arms. He didn't look embarrassed or afraid to me, like he had been the numerous times before when he'd broken something or misbehaved. This time he looked almost confused, unable to formulate the words. "There's always a dark figure in my room just watching me sleep. I could feel his eyes on me." His voice was shaky and I could see tears forming in his eyes. He was completely terrified, and he fell right into my arms, starting to sob. Now, normally any parent would just believe it had been a bad dream, but I thought of the worst, that there's an intruder, and after he calmed down enough, I told him that I'd go back into his room and have a look and check. So like in horror movie fashion, I picked up a large kitchen knife and tiptoed all throughout the apartment, seeing if there were any intruders or evidence of a break-in, and in the end, I found nothing. Peculiar, though, his closet door was cracked open. As I walked back into my bedroom, I heard him scream my name, and I ran inside with my knife at the ready. "He's here!" Henry was pointing with his finger to the darkest corner of the room and sobbing uncontrollably. In the end, I found no one and nothing, and he slept with me that night. This thing kept occurring every other day, where Henry would come into my room and just shake, and every time he'd say it was just this dark thing stalking him, getting closer each night. By the end of the week, he'd just sneak into my bed by himself without waking me, and I'd find him there in the morning. 2 weeks ago, I ordered a cheap set of simple security cameras and put them up around the apartment while he was at school, including one in his room. Yes, I know, teenagers, privacy matters, but I really shouldn't have put cameras around the apartment, let alone his room. But I needed to get to the bottom of this thing that's happening, and I planned on taking them down after a week or two. The next morning, I found Henry huddled up beside me in my bed again. It was Saturday, so I had no work, and I quietly slid out of bed as not to wake him and made a coffee while turning on the laptop. I shuffled through the cameras and the recorded footage. The quality wasn't the best, but the cameras were cheap, so what did I expect really? Henry's room was mostly quiet all night, from the moment he got into bed until the moment he got out of bed and came into my room. He didn't move once, not a single movement. I tried enhancing the footage, making it brighter to see the darkest corners of the room, but it was still too dark. Then I rewatched the sped up footage for the third time. I finally noticed something. While Henry was in bed, his closet was closed, and shortly after he left, his closet cracked open, just slightly. I found the exact moment it happened, around 2 minutes after he left. I slowed down the footage, and the closet fucking door opened by itself. Even I was freaked out now. I went on Amazon right away and ordered night vision cameras, which cost a small fortune, but the next 2 days I continued observing the footage. The second night, Henry never came into my room, and he never moved from his sleeping position until I woke him. His closet also remained shut on the second day. However, during the first day, after he left, it cracked open again shortly afterwards. Once the new cameras arrived, I installed them in his room again and rewatched the footage the following morning. Henry stayed up very late that night, almost close to 2 a.m, and he never went to bed in his room. He came straight to mine. This time, I watched the closet with such intensity that I thought I could open it just by thinking about it, and sure enough, 2 or 3 minutes later, it cracked open. I zoomed in as much as possible and slowed down the footage, and that's when I saw it. A shadow moved across the room in a split second and past the closet, and the next split second, the closet cracked open. I slowed it down even more, rewatched it again and again. I couldn't make out the figure. It was simply a blob of a shadow. I sighed and went into my room to wake up Henry. Those last days I had to wake him up because he'd sleep in for as long as he could, and even after sleeping for 12 plus hours, he'd still look tired with bags under his eyes. The next night was the last night Henry was awake. I woke up to him sleeping beside me again as usual. I slipped out quietly, not that it mattered, and went on with my morning routine of coffee and watching through the footage. He stayed up again late last night, until 3 a.m. I considered scolding him for staying up for so late on a school night as I shifted through the footage. Strangely though, the closet door never cracked open during the entire night. I coincidentally decided to look through the old cameras that were still set up everywhere else, including my room. And that's when my jaw dropped, and I saw it, clear as day. A shadow of a skeletal hand hovering right above my son, on the wall behind him, the entire fucking night. I ran to my room and tried to wake him gently, as I did every morning, but he didn't budge. Then I tried violence. I shaked him, I screamed at him to wake up, but he didn't. I called the ambulance, having nothing else left to do. He was diagnosed as in a coma. I kept watching those recordings again and again, dating back weeks ago, and I found something even more horrifying. Every night, as Henry came to my room to sleep, the shadow followed him. I watched through multiple cameras as the shadow sped from his room to the hallway, to the kitchen, and then into my room, all within a couple of seconds. And then there, in my room, it loomed right over him, getting closer and closer every single night. I don't know how to describe it. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. A shadow, but so dark and so black that the darkness of the room illuminated it in a strange way. This brings me to last week's and today's events. I, too, have started feeling a presence. I, too, have started seeing the shadow looming at the corner of my eye, and I, too, have started having it inch closer to me as I sleep every single night. I frantically put together a timeline today, and judging by it, today is the last day I'll be able to wake up on my own, which means, unless I'm awoken tomorrow, I won't wake up again. I drove to my parents' house today, and I'm going to spend the night here. They have very specific instructions to wake me. I want to see if this thing will follow me all the way here too, and I still need to figure out how to wake my son up, and figure out what this thing did to him.